Rick Dale was the star of American Restoration, until everything came crashing down for him when, after years of being on the air, the entire crew was randomly fired out of nowhere. No one knew what really happened, and you guys will never believe why they left and what they're up to now. American Restoration ran on the History Channel for years, and it was an extremely popular show. But after 6 long seasons, everyone from the show was fired from the network. Although the show did get a 7th season, it no longer focused on Rick and his shop. Instead, they were replaced by 5 different shops which all had different specialties. The different shops were pretty similar to Rick's shop in the sense that some of them focused on antiques or general restoration. But the whole thing was really upsetting for people who watched the show, since it was clear that things just weren't the same without Rick and his family. And unfortunately for the show, it was canceled shortly after the 7th season due to a huge drop in ratings. Even though it's pretty clear that Rick was fired from the show, we still don't know exactly why that happened. Neither Rick nor the History Channel have released statements about why they decided to cut ties. But what's really interesting about it is that after it happened, Rick took to social media to beg people to convince the show to bring them back. He wanted everyone to write to the show or sign a petition that would allow him to come back on. So it's clear that something must have happened between him and the network that wasn't exactly mutual. On top of that, there were only 3 episodes in season 6. Which to me suggests that something pretty major happened while they were filming, and it was apparently enough to stop production in its tracks. Although there isn't much information about why Rick was fired, some people have speculated that he was dismissed due to him and the producers not seeing eye to eye. Allegedly, after the disagreement started escalating and things got even worse, it ultimately resulted in the decision to remove Rick from the show entirely. That being said, this has never been confirmed by either side. And what's also interesting is that Rick never spoke about the situation himself, which led a lot of people to think that he might have been forced to keep silent. With these kinds of things, it's not uncommon for stars to sign a non-disclosure agreement to keep them from talking about sensitive issues. And if the issues between them were serious, that might have been exactly what happened. But this still leaves us with a lot of questions, and it really adds to the whole mystery of just why he was forced to resign. Whatever the case might be, it's clear that the show ended because of Rick's absence, even though the premise of the show was technically all about the restoration process of old antiques and other items. It was really the love of Rick and his family that kept the viewers coming back for more. So when the producers decided to replace them, it became pretty clear that Rick was the real magic of the show. They weren't really able to capture that magic again with the new people that replaced Rick in 2016. Once the new season started, the ratings dropped even lower than anyone expected, and it was obvious that the show was officially over. Unfortunately, once the show ended, it seemed like this was also the end of Rick's shop, American Restoration. Even though their website is still active, their physical shop did shut down. Not only that, but it also appears that the actual location of the shop was physically replaced by the 5 shops that became the focal point of the final season. Rick was seemingly pushed into going back to living a normal life out of the spotlight. Although it's unclear why his physical shop shut down once he left, it's possible that there was a lot more going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. Not only that, but it's also clear that the show was generating a large amount of business for him, so once it ended, that might have also stopped. But it's still good to hear that his website is active. There's hope that he and his wife are still doing restorations, even without their shop. Regardless of what went on with the show, I really think it's sad that we won't get to see Rick on TV anymore. These days, it seems like he's mostly just living a regular life with a slightly bigger social media presence than he would have if he had never did the show. When they first started the show, Rick and his wife really only wanted to do it because of their passion, and they don't need the show to continue sharing that passion with others who still want to see what they're up to. It also makes sense that Rick has been keeping more of a low profile these days, since he never really wanted to be a huge reality star in the first place. When he was first approached for the show, he was just working at a shop like any normal person. He was approached by Pawn Stars to help them with some items that they'd purchased, and he became so popular with people who were regularly watching Pawn Stars that the network decided to give him his own show. But this wasn't exactly something that he'd planned on at all, and it came as a huge surprise to him and his wife. Although it's clear that the show gave them a lot of opportunities and success, it's not like Rick ever needed it to be happy in his life. That much is clear when you look at how he's been spending his time since he left the show. While some people might consider it a little boring, Rick still consults about vintage items. He also writes about vintage items and antiques, and he even spends some of his time dabbling in metal artistry. According to their social media, his wife Kelly is currently working in the real estate industry, and their children, Brettley and Tyler, are keeping up with the family legacy. Tyler, much like his father, continues to work as a restorer, while Brettley operates the blaster just like the good old days. Although Rick doesn't post too much on social media, his wife is definitely very active online and has a joint Instagram account for the two of them. She often talks about her growing real estate business in Las Vegas, where they still live today. Every once in a while, Kelly also shares pictures of her and her husband living and working in their city, and she lets people know what's going on in their lives. In February of last year, she announced on social media that she and Rick would be downsizing their house. Since Brettley and Tyler no longer lived with them, they wanted a smaller space just for the two of them. His time on the show definitely left Rick with a decent amount of money to live the rest of his life on, with his net worth being estimated to be around $2.5 million. So these days, he's really just spending as much time as he can with his family and is no longer seeking to be a reality star, which is really great to hear, especially since the show ended on such bad terms. While we may never know the real reason behind why he left, I think it's clear that he's moved on from it. He left a great legacy behind him as he led a successful show for many years. And he's really the true winner in this case since he got paid for a long time to do the things he really loved the most, which the network can never truly take away from him. Anyway, what do you guys think about all this? Do you think Rick was forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement and that's why he never spoke about what happened? Do you think that the network played a part in him losing the physical location of his shop once he was fired? Let me know in the comments below.